Hello, I'm Steph from Gastric, and if you've never watched this channel before, I usually make car videos, but today I'm talking to you about something far more personal and not related to cars at all. So if you were hoping this was a car video, you might want to skip on. This is actually something very different because this is something I've been doing for the last 12 months. I've had a gastric sleeve, which is a form of bariatric surgery, and I have lost over 10 stone. And in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about what that's been like and everything that you can expect. And I'm going to be incredibly honest, because if there's one thing I have got right in this process, I think, is that I've been completely honest about what I was doing from the very start. And with that, this video is going to tell you everything. And if you're a little bit squeamish, or you are a little bit one of those people that can't deal with hearing about women's problems, this might not be the video for you, because I go into absolutely everything. And in fact, I've made myself some notes. So we're going to talk about the introduction, and I'm going to tell you exactly why I did it. I'm going to talk to you about the operation itself and how much it cost me and who I chose for surgery and why. I'm going to talk to you about the recovery in the immediate straight after the surgery, the progress and the weight loss over the last 12 months, because I got the surgery in November 2021 and you're watching this video, if you're watching it when I put it up, on December 31st, 2022. I'm going to talk to you about the bad bits, which are the bits that people never seem to talk about. Everyone just goes, yay, I'm thin, and it's brilliant. But I'm going to tell you what it's really like. I'm going to talk to you about the good bits, my advice and tips. I'm going to talk to you about the thing that everybody asks me about, which is loose skin, and I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to talk to you about coping mechanisms and addiction. I'm going to talk to you about the future as well. And I'm going to talk to you about whether I would do it again and what's next. So for the channel, surgery and further treatments and tweakments. And the one thing I will say is if you usually watch the channel, you'll know that I put ads in the video. I've not done that today. There are no ads from the point you start the video to the point you end it. So everything you see here is going to be completely uninterrupted. So first of all, I'll tell you about myself. So I used to be 10 stone heavier, and I feel like I was a very different person, and a lot of things had happened. And one of the things that I will say is everybody's always, well, not everybody, but a lot of people say to me, oh God, it must be so different now, you don't binge eat or you overeat. And I'm like, hey, just because I was fat doesn't mean I ate too much. I actually had hormonal problems, and way back when, if you remember the beginning of 2020, something happened. But just before that, I was with my doctor and we were going through a process of trying to find out what was going on with my hormones. But by the big time the old Panny D washed in, everything came to a halt in GP surgeries, because of course a lot of other stuff was going on, and it wasn't just my stuff that got stopped. I know that people that were going through treatment for various illnesses and diseases, that all stopped as well. Now, whether that's right or wrong, it left me in a really horrible position, because my mental health, like many other people, I was just so badly impacted as a really sociable person by COVID. And I moved a lot less, and everything came together, and unfortunately it was the perfect storm for more weight to come onto my body essentially, and I put on more weight, and I was well over 20 stone. Now, I've never told anybody that before, but look, that's what I was. I was well over 20 stone. I'm not anymore, so we can talk about it. And that's the thing with weight. It's a black and white thing. That is how much I weighed, and it doesn't make me a good person or a bad person for weighing more or less. And that's something that I want to get across. If you're watching this video as a bigger person, I want you to know that your self-worth and whether you're a good or a bad person isn't affected by the weight that's carried on your skeleton. Whether you're a good person or a bad person is the decisions you make, how you treat other people, and the goodness that you put into the world around you. It's not the size of the jeans you wear. But in my head, that was what everything hinged on. And I became, I'm not frightened to talk about it. I was not okay mentally at all. The things that people saw in the videos, I could put on a mask for the point of doing a video. But my God, did I get some vile comments. I got called a pig, I got told to take my own life, and this wasn't on one or two occasions, every single week when I uploaded a new video, I would have to brace myself because I knew the comments were coming. And sometimes I'd receive 5 or 6, and sometimes I'd receive nearly 100. But they were always, oh, look at the suspension. And I still get them now, but I just think, I'm doing something about it, and also it's not relevant to whether I know about this car or not, because what I weigh is not relevant to whether a car has been built well or not. But that didn't matter for some people because they just had to comment on it. And that's the thing about words. I think there's been a lot about it in the media lately, that words have an impact, sometimes more so than a punch in the face. And for me, that was it. I was absolutely distraught, and this level of distraught and trauma built up week after week, and I couldn't read my own comments anymore. I didn't want to do videos anymore. And in fact, as I became bigger, my world became smaller, and I stopped going out, I stopped seeing my friends. I had a myriad of excuses not to see my friends, and I stopped. I remember somebody laughed at me when I was dancing, and I never danced again. I just thought, oh, I'm not going to dance anymore. And then I refused to see a lot of my friends, and I became quite bitter and insulated. And you know what? I also noticed that people treated me really badly, because as my self-worth dropped, I noticed that people treated me worse. And I look back at some of the people that treated me worse. I don't speak to them anymore, but also some people kind of just didn't. I felt like people could detect that I was quite desperate for friendship, or desperate to be liked the bigger I got. And anyway, I was at the lowest point. Nobody get upset. I was at the lowest point in my life, and I reached out to, I hate that phrase, but anyway, I messaged my auntie in Australia, and I said, this is where my head is at. I am at the lowest point in my life. And she said to me, she said, Steph, have you thought about going for, what did we discuss? We discussed a gastric band. And I said, actually, I've been looking at a gastric sleeve, but I can't afford it. And she said, what does it cost? Get me some costs. So I went back to her and I said, this is what it costs. It was £10,500. And she said to me, right, I'm going to put the money in your bank account, send me your bank details. I said, you can't do that. And she said, I can. And a lot of people would have judged that and said, well, she should have said to you, be happy in your own skin. But actually, I'm going to hand over to her. So before we carry on, I'll hand over to her. And we recorded this when we were recently on a holiday. So Ash, it's over to you.
Hi, I'm Ash. I'm Steph's auntie. And so I now live in Australia. And in Australia, having lap banding is actually very common. I know at least 6 people that have it done successfully. And so when I knew that Steph was struggling with her weight and her mental health, and she had tried lots of different options to try and get her weight down that weren't working, I thought that might be an option. So I spoke to her about it and said, have you considered lap banding or gastro banding? And I think she hadn't, but she looked into it and came back and said, yep, can have it done. And I just felt it was the right thing for her to do. So ironically, she had it done on my birthday last year. So now a year on, and I've watched her progress on Facebook, I can't believe the difference. She's now this amazing, well, she was always confident, but now she's an amazing, confident, happy person. Whereas before she was confident, but I think not happy. And I know that it's been a struggle. It's not an easy thing to do. And I know people that have struggled as well. But I think you have to give it time, at least a year. But the results are amazing.
Now, coming back to me, I can't express how grateful I am, because I'm very fortunate, and I know a lot of people aren't fortunate and don't have that privilege that somebody steps in and says, I will pay for you. So realistically, I don't think I would be sitting on the sofa today telling you this story if I hadn't had that surgery. I don't think I would have seen 2021, if I'm honest. Well, the end of 2021. It was an absolutely horrendous time, the worst point in my entire life. So thank you very much to my auntie for doing that. And I hope that anybody watching this that has judged my choices or thought that I could have done it a different way, I tried it so many different ways. And that's one of the things that I will say, is that there were a lot of people that gave me advice or told me they'd done a certain thing to lose weight, and then after I was honest about having the surgery, they popped up and said, oh yeah, I had that surgery as well. What? So you let me drink crusty milkshakes and actually you were getting the surgery too? So I guess if you are getting the surgery, do try and be honest with the people around you or people that inquire. Don't waste people's time. I went and got my surgery with tonic, so I guess that's the next thing that we need to talk about, is the operation itself. So I've told you how much it cost. I paid £10,500. I haven't had any reduction or money knocked off for promoting it. I don't need to ask for that. I want to be completely open and genuine with you. So £10,500, I got it done with tonic, and I got it done in Leeds. They have different clinics all over the UK. I chose not to go abroad because I thought, I'm not the best of travellers at times, but can you imagine me trying to lug all my makeup and stuff through the airport and all my clothes and all the stupid things I bring with me, and I've had this surgery? Because it was the complete fear of the unknown. I didn't know anyone else who'd had it. The only people that I knew were celebrities. And I remember I chose tonic because, do you remember Chanel Hayes that used to be on Big Brother? She'd used tonic and she'd been really open about her surgery and why she picked them, and I looked into them and I read the reviews and I thought they seem really good. And yes, it was more expensive than going abroad, but I just wanted to be close to home. Because of the pandemic, we went through a series of phone consultations, and then I went in, so I had my bloods taken, I had some checks done, and then prior to the surgery I had to go on this special diet, and it was on less than 1,000 calories a day, and you had to do it for 2 weeks. But I decided that, it's that head girl energy in me, that I was going to do it for 3 weeks, and I don't know why I got it into my head, but I was going to do it. So I went for my final meal at Toby Carvery on Halloween 2021, and I remember I had this big plate, and then, because I just thought I'm never going to be able to eat like this ever again in my entire life, and I ate this meal, and then I just started crying in Toby Carvery car park. I mean, looking back, ridiculous, but I just thought, oh God, I don't know what my life's going to be like. Am I ever going to be able to eat a roast potato again? Will I be able to eat stuffing again? We're going to go into that when we talk about what happens after the surgery. Now, there were of course 2 options presented to me. There was the gastric sleeve, and so I got the gastric sleeve and the gastric band. Now, I'd read a lot of people had really suffered with the gastric band, and the gastric sleeve was more permanent. So for those of you that don't know, it removes a large portion of your stomach, removes the hunger hormone, so you're not hungry again, but it also removes a lot of the other hormones that can affect weight gain, and it's strange how your body works together, but it all communicates with your brain. And for those of you that have had similar problems with hormones and female hormone problems like PCOS, you may find that this is the better option for you over the band, sorry. It was a very permanent decision because, unlike the band, you can't go back, and what they're going to do, fish your stomach out the bin and sew it back in? They can't. It's gone. So if you make this decision, it is permanent and it is for life. So the reason you do the diet, I'm skipping around here, but the reason you do the diet for 3 weeks before is to shrink your liver. So we went in, I remember a week before I had my final bloods, and then I had to go into isolation. So I remember doing the NEC Classic Motor Show in the November, and I did it on 700 and something calories a day, and I honestly just I remember I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired, I'm so hungry, but push on. So I had these little packs of corn ham because I'm vegetarian instead of packs of chicken. And I remember eating them and thinking, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever eaten. And I had them with Muller Lights, and my life was just Muller Lights, scrambled egg with nothing added to it, and these god awful slices of corn ham for 3 weeks. And I just thought, can it be any worse after this surgery? No. No, but I tell you what, I did miss the Muller Lights. Anyway, so week 4 went in. I remember went to the NEC, then I saw Sophie Ellis-Bextor perform, and that was it. We then said goodbye to life as we knew it, and I went into isolation. So I had everything there, and then I went to the hospital on the day. And I remember I turned up, I was really nervous, and Kev drove me to the hospital, and we were sitting in the car, it was complete silence, and kind of, it's weird, kind of, you know you're coming up for a big thing. And went into the hospital, collected all my stuff, and they said, right, your surgery is today, we will come and get you in X amount of hours. And I took my crocheting with me because I thought, if I don't keep my head busy, I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to just lose it, because I was so nervous. And I remember Kev said to me, he was like, you sure? And I said, I am sure. So I took final picture with the proton. And then I went in, and I remember I don't know why I thought to do this, but I did all my hair because I thought, when I wake up, I'm not going to want to do my hair. And they put these vial socks on your feet to help with DVT, which is a really big thing. So I've said that I'm going to tell you my tips later on, but one of my big tips is if you go for the surgery yourself, or you know someone who is, tell them to get up and get moving as soon as you can to prevent blood clots. It's one of the big things that they tell you, but you really need to be up as soon as you can. So I got up, and I remember I went in, and I said to the lady, I said, oh, can I go just to the toilet finally? And I went into the toilet, had a little cry, and I looked in the mirror, and I thought, right, no, pull yourself together. You've signed up for this. You've got to have this surgery now. You know it's going to be really good on the other side. It's going to be a bit of pain, but let's push on. So I went in, and I remember I laid down and I said, don't think the medication's. And then I woke up, and I remember my first words were, because they tell you that if you don't stick to the pre-surgery diet, which is to shrink your liver, you can go in and your liver can be too big for them to do the surgery. And I woke up and I was like, was my liver all right? And I thought, look, you absolute melt, you've clearly had the surgery, so your liver must have been fine. And I remember I couldn't feel much. But I also couldn't really drink either, and this very strict nurse came in, very no nonsense, and she was like, you've got to drink. I said, I can't drink. And she was like, no, you've got to keep the water down, and if you're squeamish, you might want to mute this next bit. And I remember I took the smallest sip of water, and I was sick everywhere, and it was blood, because of course everything travels upwards. And yeah, it wasn't the last time I was sick, but we'll talk about that as we go through the rest of the video. So what happens next? Well, they have you out pretty quickly. So usually you leave the next day, but I couldn't keep water down, and this nausea was something that was a real bugbear for me. And I stayed in an extra night, and then I went home. And I'm trying to remember all the bits. I really should have kept a diary. But I remember the thing that I found the hardest, because you were supposed to move on to meal replacement shakes straight away out of hospital, and I could not stomach anything. I remember you had to do these injections, blood thinner injections, into your stomach every day. I was like, ugh, ugh. I was just like there, like this, like, oh, I'm trying to do it. And I was wearing this giant nightie because I couldn't bear for anything to touch me. And I've gone from, I was in a 6XL nightie when I went in for surgery, and today I wear a large. So I mean, that's where we're at. Anyway, I did the injections, that lasted for about 2 weeks, moved on to meal replacement shakes quite quickly. But the one thing I will say is that I got up and out there very, very quickly, and that's a double-edged sword. So I had the surgery on the Monday, and I went back to work the following Monday, and that's not something I'd advise. I think if you are going to do this surgery, book 2 weeks off. Don't try and rush back, because I really set myself back by doing that. I also got up and out walking very quickly. I went for my first biggish walk. I went for a 2-mile walk on the 3rd day because I just decided that I wasn't going to be one of life's victims anymore, and I wasn't going to accept less. And so I thought, right, get yourself up, get out there. So wrapped myself in everything, and I was like a little old woman shuffling along, but I did my 2 miles. It took me ages. And I felt such a sense of achievement. I thought, yes, I've done it. I can do this. And I had my meal replacement shake with me because you had to try and absorb at least X amount of this meal replacement shake. And I absolutely hated it. It was mint chocolate. And every day I was like, oof. But of course you can't manage solids straight away. So it's such a thing. So that's kind of where we got to. And the first few weeks was just me feeling sick, having a meal replacement shake, and me feeling sick, and on loop. And this went on for a good couple of weeks. Now usually at this point most people's nausea starts to die off, and that moves me quite well into the bad bits, because this was one of the bad bits for me, and it still continues to be quite bad, is that some weeks I am sick all the time. At first it was horrendous. It's got a lot better, and doing a bit of digging around Reddit and forums where people are a little bit more honest, it seems like this isn't as rare as I've been led to believe. And I remember anything could set me off at the start. I remember a wet door handle, an orange on a market stall. I looked at it, and it was because I've never drunk alcohol in my life. And I said to my best friend, who I always taunt when he's hungover, I said, this is what it must be like for you when you're hungover, because I cannot hold myself together. And he said, yeah, this is exactly what it's like. So if you've been hungover, apparently this is what it's like. And this was, I guess I've gone from being sick after every meal, and sometimes multiple times a day in between, to being sick probably 3 to 4 times a week. So it's improved enormously in a year, and it continues to improve. I think I've only been sick twice this week, so that's quite good. And it is Friday, so actually it's good innings. Some foods set me off, and that's one of the things that you learn, is you learn what sets you off and what doesn't. So I mean, lettuce is one of my things that I can't have, boo-hoo. Cheese, I can't really have too much of that, but you learn to work with it. So that's been quite a bad point, in that I've lost some of the enjoyment of food, because sometimes I know that I'm going to be sick, and after some meals I have to start keeping my hands busy or my mind busy so it doesn't come back up. And the next thing is hormones and hair loss. So in the interest of being completely transparent with you in this video, here is what my skin has been looking like without makeup, and it didn't really look like that before. And another thing that's happened is I used to have a fairly decent head of hair, and now I don't. I've lost quite a lot of hair. I used to have such beautiful hair that I could put up into a beehive and it looked amazing, and my hair has fallen out in clumps since the surgery. And unfortunately, that is one thing I will say, is that if you are watching this video and you are thinking about the surgery, losing hair seems to be quite a common thing, and it's very much a luck of the draw, because some people would say, oh, you're a vegetarian and that's why it's happened, but I have surfed all the groups and it's such a big problem. So you might be looking at this hair and thinking, oh, is your hair growing back? No, I am nothing from about here upwards is actually my own hair. It's all from a website called Clip Hair, and I would recommend them. They are great, and all of this is just clipped in, piled up, and it looks relatively close to my real hair. Dolly Parton once said it takes a lot of money to look this cheap. Well, let me tell you now, it takes a fair amount of money not to look as bald as I do without it pegged in. But we're being very, very honest. My monthly cycle as well has been completely impacted. It's gone from looking like Carrie, you know that film from the 70s? I looked like that quite regularly, sorry everyone, to some months me almost sending out a missing person inquiry because where on earth is it? And before all that, I could have set my watch by it. So that's one thing I will say, is that hormones, hair loss, all of that's tied in, and some of that is down to estrogen being contained in fat cells and you're losing all of it. Look, I'm not a doctor, I can't tell you exactly why these things happen, but it seems to be quite a common thing. But you know what, I'd rather cry looking a bit bald with my skin looking a mess and my cycle being all over the place than being exactly where I was before and not seeing a future. So I guess that leads me on to tell you that the worst point about this surgery has been that I wasn't entirely realistic, I don't think, coming into it. I treated it like a magic bullet. I thought it was going to change the world for me. I thought all my problems will be solved by the time I fit into this magical size 12. And I'm here to tell you that is not the case. I thought when my car was fully restored and when I could fit into a size 12, I thought, yay, all my problems will disappear. No, all your problems are still there. You're just putting up a barrier that you think that's what they are. I mean, I had a million problems, and a lot of them were related to weight, and a lot of those have dissipated, but it's not a magic bullet that solves everything. I still suffer really badly with low moods. I have complete body dysmorphia. I've got no idea what I look like, and I'm really disappointed with my post-surgery body. And I guess that, should we pull in about loose skin? And this is something that a lot of people have asked about as well, the loose skin thing. Well, look, a lot of this here that I have got in my tights, can you see that on the camera? Hopefully, if not, essentially it's just me touching my stomach and a bit of the old, I wonder if I can show you. Can you see? There, I'm not going to try and sugar the pill. I'm not going to hide it from you. I'm being completely honest in this video, because if you're watching this video to make the choice yourself, I want you to go in with every fact in your back pocket and all the bad bits and all the good bits. But look, I'm not really that bothered, because I'm going to move you on to the good bits. I am now living again, and that for me is the best bit. I don't care about the loose skin, just pull a pair of tights on. My arms, who cares? If I'm honest, my chest as well is like 2 bags for life that got caught in a windstorm. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Nobody's body is perfect, and I think that's one of the things that I've taken away from this, is that my body will never be perfect in the way that I wanted it to be. I don't really care. My body is just a vessel for me to enjoy my life now, and I'm making sure that I do. I've been to Singapore this year, I've been to Malaysia, I've been to France twice. I went and did that disastrous Top Gear dating thing. I've done all sorts of things that I wouldn't have done, including refusing to accept less, and that kind of leads me on very nicely to matters of the heart, because when I started this journey I didn't have a boyfriend, and everybody I met could pick up, I think, that I was willing to accept the scraps from the table. So I just met a series of disastrous people, which was, and this is a moment of honesty, both my fault and theirs. It was my fault because I was willing to accept less and I wasn't my true self, and it was their fault for being willing to exploit that. So I just met a series of unsuitable people, and that's one of the really nice things actually that's come out of this, is that I went into the world of dating knowing my worth, knowing what I could bring to the table, knowing who I wanted to be and not settling for second best. And I met one of the nicest men in the world, and he's now my boyfriend. And it's really nice because when I was dating as a bigger person, and ladies and gents that are bigger, you will know exactly what I'm talking about when you meet the people that are like, pull a pig, and the people that want to feed you up like the turkey at Christmas. What is with that? And I met quite a lot of those people actually. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, more power to you, but I didn't want to be fattened up like the proverbial pig. So I have quite a healthy, normal relationship now, and that's one of the great things actually, is that a lot of my relationships are 50-50. I'm less of a people pleaser. I'm more honest with what I want out of life and what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not willing to accept, which has set me up for a much healthier environment and a much healthier life. It's also meant that I've pushed a few people out of my life, and if you have this surgery, you will find that some of your relationships are, I guess, damaged or impacted by you choosing this, because you're choosing to have a better life for yourself. And some people fear that, and some people feel threatened by that, and they won't want you in their life. And it's probably better for you if you don't have them in your life. And that's a bit of advice as well. What else have I written down? Yes, and then of course wearing clothes that I like, and not just clothes that fit. So you've probably noticed that if you've followed the channel for a while, you've noticed I've always worn vintage. I used to make all my vintage clothing. I had very few bits that were off the peg. Nowadays I can fit into off the peg vintage clothing like this, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favourite dresses, which is why I picked it for the video. And yeah, I'm a much happier person. So whilst I still suffer and I still have dips and I still feel really strange, I get more good days than bad days, which is a complete reversal of how it was before the surgery. What are my advice and tips? So first of all, comparison is the thief of joy. If you are on this journey yourself, or you're going into it, don't compare yourself to somebody else, because everybody's starting point is different, everybody's journey is different, everybody's body is different. And avoid some of these groups that exist like the plague, because some of them are not good for your mental health or your recovery or your journey. Because you get someone pop up, dear old Doris pops up, and they're like, oh, I had my surgery 3 weeks ago and I've only lost 6 stone, is that all right? Doris, you're making me feel bad as I sip this awful milkshake. Shh. So don't compare your journey to anyone else. Do what you think is right for you, and keep up your water and keep up your protein, which is really hard if you're a vegetarian, but there are lots of protein options out there, things like tofu, and there's other options out there. So don't be frightened to ask for help as well. If you feel like you're struggling, ask people for help. One of the things that I would say is get some counselling before you do it and after you do it, because you are about to go on a roller coaster of emotions. And also have some compassion for yourself, because you're going through major surgery and you are going through one of the biggest life changes you'll ever go through. So have some compassion for yourself. I haven't always had compassion for myself. In fact, I still beat myself up now. I tried on my dress for New Year's and I thought, oh God, you look awful. I thought, oh, shut up. Just get on with it. You like the dress, just wear it. Who cares? Your friends want to see you. They're not bothered about whether you think you look a certain way in a certain outfit. So moving on from that, coping and addiction, one of the things that they do say is that be careful where you divert your energies to. So I've had to go back to doing a lot of crochet and keeping my mind busy, because I could feel myself slipping into disordered eating and unhealthy obsessions with what the tape measure said. I have to be really careful with that. So that's one of the things I would say, is have a bit of self-awareness in how you are proceeding through your journey. And a lot of people, I think you're a lot more predisposed to becoming addicted to drugs or alcohol if you've had this surgery. So if you start feeling like you're slipping, check yourself, check in with the people around you and get some help. Don't just let things spiral. And I guess let's talk about, would I do it again and the future? So you've probably already guessed, I would absolutely 100% do it again. I would not, I'd not hesitate to do it again. There are things I would do differently. I'd book more time off work. I would have more compassion for myself. I think I would have taken life a little bit slower, because I took no time off at all. And I think I would compare myself less to the people around me. And let's talk about the future, because a lot of people have said, oh, you're going to get surgery if you lose skin. And I always think, what? Do you not think that I've done enough? If I'm honest, I don't know. At the moment, I'm quite happy just chucking what I've got lingering around into a pair of tights or a girdle. I love shapewear. I chuck on some shapewear, I chuck on a really good bra, and I just get on and enjoy my life, because I spent a lot of my life apologising for who I was, apologising for taking up space, and always people pleasing and giving more than I thought I had to give, because I was in a bigger body. And I guess that's one of the things that I want you to take away from this video, is whether you have the surgery or not, is please never apologise for being yourself, whether you're bigger, whether you're smaller, whether you've got big boobs, large boobs, a big stomach, a big bum, whatever you've got, whatever body type you've got, whoever you are, you're fine the way you are. If you're going to do the surgery, do it for you and do it to live the life that you want to live. Or if you're going to go on a diet, do it because that's what you want to do. Don't do it to please a man or please a woman or whatever you're doing it for, or to get a promotion. Do everything you do in your life for you, because everyone else could disappear tomorrow, but when you look in the mirror, and this is really corny, there's only one person you have to answer to, and that's yourself. And I guess that a lot of people said to me it wasn't a very feminist move for me to do this. And you know what? It's the ultimate feminist thing to say as a woman that you want the best for yourself and you want to present a good example to other women. And I do. And the example that I want to give is do what's right for you and don't accept less than what you deserve. And that's the takeaway from this. So do I think I'm going to have more surgery? Don't know, probably not. I was really no, probably not, because I didn't really enjoy the pain of the first rodeo. I don't think I'm going to want to do even more. And you know what, my body's there just for me to get around and enjoy. I can do everything that I wanted to do when I was bigger now. I've been on a plane, I've been out in little cars, I've worn outfits that I didn't think I would ever wear again. So all the things that I wanted to do, I can do it with this loose skin and this saggy body and the increased wrinkles, because I've got loads of wrinkles now and got loads of fat in my face. But who cares? Because if you don't like me as I am and you don't like my body as it is, well, I don't really care, because it's my body and it's my life. And that's it really. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great new year wherever you are. And if you have any questions about the surgery or any questions about recovery, my email address is out there. It's idriveaclassic@gmail.com, or you can drop a comment in the section below. I will always be 100% honest with you. But until next time, when we go back to cars, take care. And I'll probably never talk about this again. See you later. Bye.